Okay, what if I told you there's this one tiny mindset shift that could make your English sound instantly more natural? And get this, it has absolutely nothing to do with memorizing more vocabulary. Nope, it's all about learning to see the world through a new lens. So, let's dive right in and figure out what on earth that means.
All right, let's start with a little test. On your screen, you'll see a super common Korean phrase. So how would you translate this into English? Go on, take a second. Don't overthink it. I'm guessing the most direct, word-for-word translation is probably what's popping into your head right now. And yeah, that literal translation would be something like, my head is sick. I mean, grammatically, sure, it works, but it just sounds a little off, right? It's not quite what you'd hear. A native speaker would pretty much always say, I have a headache. Now look closely. The really interesting thing here is that tiny little word in the middle of the natural phrase, have. That small switch from just describing a state to describing possession, that is the key to this entire explainer.
See that difference? It shows us something way deeper than just vocabulary choices. It's like we're talking about two completely different mental operating systems. One way of thinking focuses on states and actions, using adjectives and verbs. But the English way, well, it often prefers to think in terms of things and the relationships between those things.
And we're going to call this the nominal lens. Just look at the definition here. It's basically a way of thinking where English prefers to see the world as a relationship between things, between nouns. So instead of saying something is a certain way, you say that someone or something has a certain thing. This is the crucial point right here. You don't just feel sick. You have a sickness. You possess it.
Okay, so let's check out the first key technique for using this new lens. And this one is kind of cool. It's all about giving ownership to things that aren't even alive. Seriously. In English, you can make inanimate objects the owners of their own attributes. Let me show you how this works. This is a perfect example. So the Korean way might be to describe the state of the house. Our house, rooms are 4. Simple enough. But in English, the house itself becomes the main character, the owner. Our house has 4 rooms. The house literally possesses the rooms. Isn't that wild? English gives agency and ownership to a building.
And this whole pattern goes way beyond just the word have. If you want to sound even more advanced, you can start using more sophisticated verbs. So a book doesn't just have a title, it carries a heading. A phone doesn't just have a good camera, it possesses a high-quality lens. You see how this makes the language feel so much more active and dynamic? The objects themselves are doing things, they're owning their features. Okay, so we've seen how objects can own their features. Now, our second key technique takes that same logic and applies it to people and their actions. Instead of just talking about what someone does, you basically turn that action into a core part of their identity. In English, you literally become what you do.
Check this out. The typical verb-focused way to say this would be, he eats a lot of meat. That's just a description of an action, right? But the noun-focused, more English way, he is a heavy meat consumer. Bam! All of a sudden, it's not just about what he's doing at the dinner table, it's about who he fundamentally is. That action is now his identity.
And believe me, this is not just some random one-off trick. It's a super common and really powerful pattern in English. I mean, think about it. Someone who eats slowly, they're a slow eater. Someone who's picky, a picky eater. A person who gets up early, they're an early riser. Someone who spends a ton of money, a big spender. We just love turning behaviors into these tidy, noun-based labels that define a person's whole character.
All right, let's bring it all home. We've talked about how English lets objects own things and how it turns actions into identities. So now it's time for you to put this new English mind, this nominal lens, into practice.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Mastering English is not just about knowing more words, but about putting on the English lens to see the world as a relationship between nouns. It's a total shift in perception. You start to see the world not as a series of actions, but as a web of things and their relationships. That is the real goal.
So before we wrap up, I'm going to leave you with a little challenge. Think about this super common phrase, I didn't sleep well. Okay, so that's describing a state, an experience. But using your new nominal lens, how could you rephrase it? How would you turn sleep into a thing, something you can have or not have? I'll let you chew on that one for a bit. The answer is probably something you've heard 1,000 times. Because ultimately, that's the big takeaway here. See the world as a relationship between nouns. The next time you're about to say something, just take a half-second pause and ask yourself, wait, can I turn this action or this feeling into a thing? Start doing that, and I promise you, you will be absolutely amazed at how much more natural and fluent your English starts to sound.